Well, welcome. It is really lovely to be here with you. So we're gonna have a bit of an experience this afternoon that is really going to involve you digging deep and thinking about who you are and what makes you worth employing, going out with, giving an internship, giving an opportunity to. That's what we're here for. So I'm going to ask you to put any questions you have in the chat. But don't bother taking any notes, apart from I'm going to give you a little few things to write down in the exercises. But don't bother taking any notes because we're recording this and this will be available for you to go back over and take at your own pace so that you can literally just stop it and go, this is important, I'm going to write this down. What I'd much rather is you experience what we're going to be chatting about today. So we're going to start by asking you to daydream. Hopefully you're all quite good at daydreaming. And I want you to think about what your ideal internship would be. Now, just to be clear, in case anybody doesn't know what an internship is, an internship is a paid opportunity to experience a company, a place of work. So it might run for a couple of months, it might run for a couple of weeks, it might run for a whole year. And effectively, when you're out of school, either in university or looking for employment, you are looking to get an internship with a company so that they can experience you and see how good you are. Because this is how most jobs are got these days. Essentially, companies get the opportunity to try before they buy. So they bring a whole load of interns into their company, they experience them, they see what they're like to work with, and then they go from there. So I want you to imagine, I want you to daydream, what company would be your ideal place to go and experience? Just pop some words in the chat. It'd be great, Emmy, to hear what people are saying. But, you know, who would you want to do that for a couple of weeks, a couple of months, even a year? Give me some names and pop them in the chat. Emmy, if you can just let me know any that are coming through, that would be great.
Yeah, I've unmuted myself. I'll just wait for those to come through.
So, and I want you to dream big, okay? If you were to get an opportunity out there in the world, who would it be? So, if those are slow coming through, I'm going to move on.
Yeah, we've got none coming through right now.
I'm just wondering if people on
the ONS maybe, says Gracie.
Who, sorry?
The ONS.
The ONS. Okay, that would be cool. So what I'd like you to do is I want you to imagine that you've got this opportunity, okay? You've heard about it, you know it's there, and you've been incredibly lucky or maybe incredibly skilled, but you've got down to the last 5 applicants. And they are saying that they are going to fly the last 5 applicants out to LA, right? They're going to fly you out first class to LA for an interview. But before you get the opportunity to get on that plane, what they want you to do is to create a 1-minute video asking one question. And this is the question they want you to answer. Why should we choose you? So I want you to have a think for a moment. In fact, if you've got a pen and paper in front of you, I want you to write down 5 reasons why they should choose you to get on that first class flight to LA and go and have an interview. I'm going to stop talking so that you can do that. Okay. Now, I'd just love you to give me an idea. If you just pop in the chat, was that easy to do, hard to do, simple? Just give me a word. How easy or hard did you find it to write down 5 reasons why they should choose you? We got quite a quiet group on this talk today, Emmy.
Yeah, looks like it. Catherine said she found it quite hard.
Catherine is my hero.
Yeah, we're getting quite a few hards coming through now.
Right. Okay. So it is hard. That's the truth. And Catherine, thank you for being brave. In Ivy House language, we call that being rhino. But actually saying, yeah, actually, that was quite difficult. But let's take a reality check for a moment, because that's what you're going to need to know the answer to. You are going to need to know why somebody should choose you for the rest of your life in all sorts of things, whether or not they choose you to go to university when you're writing a personal statement, whether or not they choose you to go for an interview, whether or not they choose you for a job, whether or not somebody chooses to live with you, travel with you, share a flat with you, whatever it might be. Okay. So when you were writing those things down, I just want you to have a little bit of a self-reflect and think about, look at your list for a moment and go, how different is it to anybody else's? Would it stand out in a crowd if there were 5 more next to them or 50 more next to them to your list? How different would it be? And how memorable would it be? So why am I asking about how memorable it would be? Why does that matter? Because the world you're entering into when you leave school is quite different. It's very different to the school environment, in fact. And how you communicate about yourself is literally going to make the difference between success and failure. Now, you might be sitting there going, well, it doesn't really matter to me because, you know, I'm going into a job like medicine or accountancy or all the rest of it. But you still need to get the job. You still need to get the place on the course. You still need to make people want to work with you, to be with you. So what you need to realize is that this is the work about understanding who you are and how you take yourself to the world. And that's why it really matters. So I have another question for you, and then we're going to start to get into the detail of it. Do you think you have the courage to become a great pitcher? And do you know what I mean about pitching? So I'm not going to ask you to answer that question right now, because what I'm going to do is go through what it would take to become great at selling yourself, great at communicating about yourself. And then you can decide at the end of it whether or not you're going to take the time and the effort to become good at it. Before I do that, let me spend just a couple of minutes on who I am and why am I here talking to you about this. So my name is Elke Edwards. I'm the founder and the creative director of a company called Ivy House that you may or may not have come across. So Ivy House is I guess, on a mission to change the world. We work with organizations across the world, and we work with their high potential leaders. And what we're looking to do is to create better leaders. So we work with people that organizations are saying, this one, we believe that they are going to be the future of our organization, and they send them to us and we train them to reach their full potential. The other thing we do is we work with a whole range of different schools, and we work with them in 2 ways. We work with them through the Future Leaders Project, which is an incredible free resource for all of you students. And we have a program called the Ivy House Award, where you can go into detail about learning these skills. So that's who I am. So what are we going to do today? Well, we're going to learn how to create a great pitch. We're going to look at what it is, why it matters. We're going to answer that tough question, why you? And I'm going to show you how to create a perfect pitch for many different situations. So let's kick off. What is a pitch? And why does it matter? So a pitch is your attempt to persuade your audience to buy or believe in what you're selling. I'm going to say that again. It's your attempt to persuade your audience to buy or believe in what you're selling. It may be as simple as get your parents to buy into the fact that you want to go to a party in a city a long way away with people they don't know or don't trust, and you want to stay out all night. That's a pitch. How you persuade them to let you do that, that's a pitch. It might be something maybe a bit more sensible, like how to get an internship, how to get somebody to choose you as one of the future leaders of the year, how to win a competition. So it's a set of words, it's a way of talking that effectively makes somebody engage with what you're trying to sell them. And in this instance, it may be the 1-minute video that you've been asked to do for this brilliant internship that you want to get. So that's what a pitch is. Now, the interesting thing about pitching is that people always go, so effectively it's selling myself. And certainly in Britain, we have a sort of a bit of a negative view about selling ourselves. You know, selling for some reason is bad. But of course, actually, without selling, the world would not go around. But actually, that's just a faulty way of thinking about selling. I want you for a moment to think of somebody you really rate. It might be a celebrity. It might be a friend. It might be somebody in your school. Doesn't really, might be a politician. That would be interesting if it was a politician, but think of somebody that you really rate, that you've bought into them. Okay. Now I want you to really think about, well, how do you feel? I don't know. For some reason, David Beckham is coming to mind. I'm not a football fan, but maybe he's coming to mind. And maybe how do I feel if I bought into David Beckham? Well, I feel positive feelings. I feel that, maybe he's a good guy, that he's doing good things for the world and blah, blah, blah. So actually it's eliciting in me positive, good feelings. Now, effectively, what he's done is sell his brand to me. He sold his representation of who he is to me through the media, and I have bought into that. That's selling. That's pitching. That is creating a brand and a way of being and a way of talking about yourself and showing up to the world that people actually want to engage with you and buy into you. Now, it's an old adage that many of you will have already heard. People buy people. They're not going to buy your grades. They're not going to buy your family background. They're going to buy you or the idea you're selling them. So literally every job you get, every person you ask out, every business you want to start or competition you want to enter, people are going to be making a decision on you based on how you pitch yourselves. So this is how it works. No, we only know other people from the behavior they put into the space between us. That's how we know them, right? So if I'm in a relationship with my boss here and I put in sarcasm, bitchiness, negativity, a bit of sullenness, if I put those sorts of behaviors into the space between us, then my boss is going to think certain things about me. I suspect not very good things about me. So, but the same thing, if she puts in care, consideration, clarity, I am going to have a view of her. So the order, the aim and objective in any kind of pitch is to really think about the behavior we're putting into the space between us in any relationship we're having. So I want to remind you, if you've got any questions about any of this, you can put them in the chat as we go along and we'll answer them at the end. So if that's what a pitch is, it's the words and the body language and the eye contact and the engagement that I put into the space between us. What's the aim of a pitch? What do you think the real goal of a pitch is? So I'm going to make it easy for you, and I'm going to give you the answer. The aim of a pitch is to be remarkable. It's probably freaking everybody out right now. What do I mean by be remarkable? I mean be worthy of remark. That's the aim of a pitch, to be worthy of remark, because this is how you want it to work. Let's imagine you met somebody at a networking event. You went to a school networking event or a university networking event, and they asked you about yourself. They turned to you and said, tell me about yourself. And you said, I really want to go into marine biology. I want to go and work in the Indian Ocean, and I want to get an internship working with somebody that does X, Y, and Z. Now, it's a bit of a bizarre, it's a random thing to say, but let's imagine that person you told that to, 3 weeks later, they're at a party, they're talking to someone and they go, what do you do? He goes, well, I'm a marine biologist and I'm about to go out on a project and I'm about to do this. What you want is for that person to say to them, do you know what? I know somebody you should talk to. I know somebody that could come and maybe be your runner on that project. That is why we need to be worthy of remark. It's really interesting. I often talk a lot at graduate fairs. So people that are in the midst of doing their degrees and they want to go out and get a job. And I might have 500 people in front of me in the room talking, and I'm looking across a sea of black, gray, and navy. And this is what happened to me last time. I was doing this graduate fair, and that's everybody was wearing black, grey, and navy, because for some reason they think they need to dress in business wear. And there was one young lady, and she had on a bright red dress. Now, at the end of that talk, I don't know, maybe 25 people came up to talk to me, and she was one of them. And she is one of the 3 people I remember, not actually because of what she said, but because of what she wore. The 2 others I remembered because of what they said to me. So the aim of a pitch is to be worthy of remark. So we now know what a pitch is, we know why we're doing it, and we know what the aim is. So let's return to the dreaded question, why you? I've already asked you this question. I think a number of you were brave enough to say, it's a tough question. So let's go a little bit deeper and let's understand how you could make it a bit easier on yourself. So you may not know this, but this is what you look like. Every person looks like this. We have a vision for our lives. We have dreams about where we might want to live, what kind of work we might want to do, what we might want to change about the world. We have things that drive us, motivate us, our driving forces. We have a set of values, things that are really important to us to function. We have a set of beliefs, and we have something that puts us in our element. What do I mean by puts us in our element? Well, I'm in my element now talking to you. One of the things I love doing most in the world is talking to audiences. So it's really important that's hopefully a talent of mine, that I can talk to people. But my element is the point at which my talents and my passions cross. So in my element, talking to you guys, and my passion is human development. How do we make the most out of our lives? That's my passion. And where those 2 things cross, I'm in my element. So understanding what that is for you, what puts you in your element, may well be something that you end up talking to others about. Or you might know what your purpose is in life. You might understand why you're here, what it is that you are put on this earth to do. So your challenge is really finding out these things about yourself that you may not know right now. In fact, in my experience, most people don't know this deep understanding of themselves. But of course, the interesting question is what are you doing to find out? So if we're going to start to be remarkable, if we're going to start to engage people in who we are, what we're interested in, what we're dreaming about, what fascinates us, what we want to learn about, if we want to do all of those things, we actually need to spend a little bit of time getting to know who we are. And the bottom line is, it's not going to fall out of the sky. I'm afraid there isn't a textbook that's going to have the answer in, and you can't Google search, who am I? Well, you could try, but I suspect it's not going to give you the answer you're looking for. So ultimately, you're going to have to make a decision. You're going to have to make a decision whether or not you want to discover things about yourself. So let's say one of the things we get quite a lot is, I'm really passionate about sport. Right. Okay. So that's not remarkable. Half the population is passionate about sport. But what is it about sport that you love? Or do you particularly love a rare kind of sport? Is it the teamwork? Is it the competition? What is it that really gets you going? Do you potentially have an interesting hobby? I once heard a pitch of somebody that collected old postcards, and I'm like, you do what? You collect old postcards? And then told me the story about actually being really interested in the lives of the people that had written the postcards and what was going on in different centuries and all of that kind of thing, the history of postcards. And I've got to tell you, it was incredibly fascinating. So what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to get to know yourself. You're going to need to ask yourself questions about who you are and what you're interested in and what matters to you. And then you're going to need to start to weave that into your pitch. Why do we need to do that? Because when we talk about ourselves and we're really authentic and we share stuff that is interesting, we're just far more compelling to listen to. I mean, that's the bottom line. We become interesting to listen to. So That's what you're going to need to do. You're going to need to get to know yourself. I personally think that's some of the best homework you may have ever been given. So let's move on to how we actually do this. Now, I've been teaching pitching for a very long time, probably 15 years or so. And what I've come to realize is that there are 4 things that you need to pay attention to. Content, what you actually say. Structure, the order in which you say it. Your performance, how you say it. And perfecting it. Actually learning it, getting it right, knowing it so well you can't get it wrong. So I want to start with an example, and I'm going to give myself the same challenge that I was just talking to you about. I'm going to imagine that I was at a networking event and somebody got introduced to me and they said to me, Elke, tell me about yourself. So what would I say? Well, I'd say, hi, lovely to meet you. I'm Elke Edwards. I'm the founder and the creative director of Ivy House. I guess if I were to nail it to 3 things that you should know about me, the first is that I'm on a mission to change the world. I'm on a mission to change the world by bringing the very best learning to people at the beginning of their careers. The second thing you should know about me is that I've been in the world of human development for over 20 years. It's probably over 25 years now. And I've worked across pretty much every sector with CEOs and their boards of directors. And in doing that work, I realized that if we wanted to create better leaders, we needed to start far sooner. And I guess the third thing you should know about me is I've got 5 daughters, and apart from bleeding me dry, they are also a complete inspiration to the work I do with younger people. So I guess those are the 3 things you should know about me. Right now, I'm focused on bringing this learning to 6th formers, because I know that the world out there is tough. And I know that there are skills that if they master them are going to make a game-changing difference to how their life turns out. And I want to be part of bringing those skills. So I guess it's lovely to meet you, but I guess having shared my mission with you, I need to ask you if you know of any head teachers or teachers that are really passionate about bringing this kind of learning to young people. And if you do, it'd be great to be introduced. So that's what I would say if somebody asked me to tell them about myself at a networking event. So that was my pitch for that situation. What we're going to do now is go through an exercise to help you create your pitch. And I'm going to make the exercise the same. So I'm going to ask you to imagine that you are at a networking event. And I want you to, again, now have a think about 3 things, just 3 things that you would share about yourself that could make you worthy of remark. So just jot them down, have a think, put them in your phone, wherever it is you want to put them. So I suspect some of you are sitting there going, this is still hard. There's nothing about me that makes me worthy of remark. Right now, I'm just focusing on getting through school and getting my grades and getting into the university I want to get into. Well, the tough reality is I never said it would be easy. But what I am telling you is if you don't get to know yourself in this shape or form, you are going to be limiting the success that you can have out there in the world. So see this, again, as I just said, as the best homework you're ever going to get, to actually get to know yourself well. So again, I'm just going to remind you, you might want to share information about things that interest you. For example, I remember a pitch by a lady called Hannah Monroe, and she stood up and she said, her opening line was, do you know there are more men called John on boards of directors in the UK than there are women? I've never forgotten that line. So part of her pitch, part of the few things she decided to tell me was, I am passionate about equality. Okay. And she told it by sharing some information. I've had people share information about climate change, about teenage addictions. One of my favorite ones was magicians live 10 years longer than others on average. Now, they told me that for a reason, because they then went on and told me a story about actually people that get joy out of life and what it means to health. So you might tell a personal story. I've had somebody get up and do a pitch and say, well, I guess one of the things you should know about me, this was a 17-year-old man. One of the things you should know about me is that I am the primary carer for my granny who has dementia. And that's my main mission in life right now. Again, that was like, wow, okay. That was the first thing he chose to tell me about himself. Another one, I remember somebody saying to me, I managed to get into the English squad to play rugby and break my leg on the same day. So you are looking for things that just think in terms of newspaper headlines, like, you know, you're not going to read the I'm 17 years old and I go to school in Guildford and these are my A levels. Like, that interests nobody. Think about something, and it doesn't have to be big. It doesn't mean I have to got into the English squad. It doesn't, you know, somebody got up to once and said that they had a gold medal winning flock of sheep. Somebody else told me about actually they had an obsession with color mixing and talked to me about that. Doesn't really matter. What matters is that you think about the things that people are going to connect with you over, and they can be really personal things. You know, I remember another young man standing up and saying to me, well, I guess one of the things you should know about me is that, you know, I've been thrown out of 3 schools. Okay, I'm listening. So high, low, sideways, it doesn't really matter. Just spend some time really thinking about it. It might be that you have led yourself out of a situation. It might be that you have a passion for banking. It might be that you have a passion for, I don't know, weaving rugs. Just think about something that is going to interest you. And of course, and it might be funny stories. It doesn't matter. I remember a guy, in fact, he was a teacher. He might even be on this call right now. I remember a guy getting up and telling me that he had been a shepherd in Australia while selling Coke into Australia. Coca-Cola, I should say, sorry, Coca-Cola into Australia. So the important thing is let it all out. Just get yourself a massive sheet of paper and put down anything that you can think about that may make you stand out. And then ask friends and family to do the same. You know, go to your parents, go to your friends, and you say, if you could only say 3 things about me, what would you say? Get them to share them. And slowly but surely start to work on what we call your identifiers. So that's content. I'm going to ask you to go deep, ask for help, think about it. Now, the second piece is structure. Now, you may not have known it, but while I was talking, I was following this structure. I said, hi, my name's Elka. I'm connecting with you. Then I said, there are 3 things you should know about me. It might be 1 thing, it might be 2, it might be 3. And I said, so that's what I'm using for people to identify me with, right? So I'm going, when you walk away, you're going to remember I've got 5 kids. You're going to remember I'm on a mission to change the world. And you're going to remember that I've spent 25 years in human development. Okay. So I'm not going to drown you with information. I'm just going to tell you a few things that are easy to remember about me. And then what did I do? I told you what I was focused on. Right now, I'm focused on talking to forward-thinking head teachers who are interested in putting this kind of learning into their curriculum. Why? Because it changes the success rate. It changes the experience of life for their pupils. And then I said, could you help me? Do you know any forward-thinking head teachers? Hopefully you all do. So whilst I didn't show you that, that is how I learned my pitch. I actually went through the structure and enabled myself to speak fluently because I had a place to put things. So what I'm sharing here is a generic structure. Now, the truth is pitches very rarely work like that, you know. They do on videos, but if you're in a networking event and someone says, hi, I'm John, who are you? Tell me about yourself. You know, you're not going to just stand up and go boom, de boom, de boom, de boom, de boom. You're going to have a conversation. So I'm going to be really annoying and say to you, whilst you absolutely need to learn the structure, you also need to be prepared to swap it all around, because in the different conversations that you end up with in your life, you're going to need to access this information, so that when the parent of a friend of yours says to you, hey, Sam, how are you doing these days? What's going on for you? That you are able to share some information in those few minutes that might make them want to give you an internship. I can tell you right now that you are all surrounded by adults that have made a subconscious decision as to whether or not they would help you or not. As I said earlier, we've got 5 daughters. And with those 5 daughters, I mean, our house is like a blooming common room, okay? So we've got friends and boyfriends and girlfriends and all the rest of it coming around. And I cannot help it, but I'm looking at them going, yeah, I'd give you a job. I wouldn't give you a job. I wouldn't give you a job. So I want you to think about how you're projecting yourself in that basis. So breathe a moment, take a pause. So I want you to do, I'm going to give you an example of how swapping it around works. And the example I am going to give you is the Future Leaders of the Year competition. I don't know whether or not you've heard about this yet, but honest to God, you should really enter this competition. It's a phenomenal step up in terms of your life, your career, the life you're building for yourselves. You get to work with an incredible set of coaches, mentors. There's cash prizes. It's just a brilliant opportunity. But to enter the competition, we've asked you 3 questions. We've asked you to tell us your story. So what parts of your story you want to share. We've asked you, in the context of your story, what are you most proud of and why? And we've asked you, if you're in that situation again, what might you do differently and why? So what we're really asking you to do is pitch yourself. But you're sitting there going, well, how does that work? How does that work on the structure she's just shown us? So you'd stand up on the video and you go, hey, my name's Elka Edwards. And then you would decide which parts of your story you want to share, because we don't have 20 minutes to listen to the fact that you were born here and then you moved there and your dad does this job and your best mate does this and you fell off your bike when you were 9. We haven't got time to listen to that. So you need to decide which parts of your story you want to share with us. That's the identify bit. That's the bit we go, it's the guy that is passionate about canoeing and is trying to get into the GB team, right? So think about the bits of your story you want to share. Don't drown us with information. And please don't start off with, I'm 17 and I live in Guildford, because that's not going to interest us. So connect, give us your name, think about the parts of your story you want to share. And then what do you want us to focus on? So of that story, what are you most proud of and why? And what would you do differently? What did you learn? So share that with us, because we're going, oh, so they're really proud of this. This is why it matters to them. Now, on a video, you will have noticed that in the structure that I used, I asked a question at the end, because it's always great to engage somebody by asking for something. It's obviously a bit difficult to do that on a video because we're not actually having a conversation with you, but you might want to leave us with a thought or a quote or a question that just makes us position you in our minds emotionally. Okay, so this matters to them. They're giving something back. They're asking us to reflect on something. So that's how the structure works when you're doing a video. And you will often be asked to do videos in your future. So we've done content, we've done structure. Let's talk about now about performance. So I want you to imagine for a moment that I came on this call this afternoon. I was like, hi, my name's Elka Edwards and I'm the founder of Ivy House and da-da-da-da-da. And I just spoke like this and my eye contact was down and I had my hand over my mouth. I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist, does it, to work out that that is not going to be very engaging. So I want you to have a moment of what I would call courageous honesty and ask yourself, just, have a think about what people would say about you and your energy. Fine. Are you a drain? Are you somebody that sort of slopes into the room and sucks the energy from the room? Are you a radiator, somebody that, you know, people want to, are attracted to and want to come to? Are you too much? Do you impose your energy on people and you take over too much? So have a think about that. Have a think about when people are engaging with you, how they experience your energy. Now, what I do know, having got 5 kids, is that your energy will be different with different people. You may show up to your friends and be a full-on radiator and a lot of fun and quite articulate and engaged in the conversation. You might be monosyllabic with certain adults in your life. Well, you might want to rethink that, because it's those people that are going to have the opportunities for you in the future. So think about the behaviors you do. Are you a swayer? Do you rock from side to side? Do you avoid eye contact? Do you spend your life doing this when people are talking to you? Doesn't go so well, right? So be courageously honest about your physical energy. So that's what I want you to do about performance. Now, the other thing about performance, not just your energy, is how you make sure the words come out of your mouth in an articulate way. So I gave you the structure, but of course, what you can't have in front of you is, and I do this, and this is what you should know about me, and blah, 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 blah. Because of course, you're going to sound like a robot. So what I use, and is what proven to use all the time when I am learning pitches, is I use a mind map. And that one didn't come out so well. So I'm going to share this one, because what you will see on a mind map is lots of colors and lots of drawings. This is how I learn a pitch, any kind of pitch. This is an hour-long talk I did at a headmaster's conference, actually. It's an hour-long talk I did. And I could talk for an hour by just having that in my head. I don't even need to have it in front of me. So why do I suggest that you create a mind map? Because what a mind map does is it stops you sounding like a robot. It allows you to just have a picture. So what you'll see here is connect. That's the little blonde hair. I've usually got long blonde hair there. And then there's my little house and my heart, that's what I'm on a mission to do. I can't even see the next word on that one. So, but the reality is I'll remember the picture. My brain remembers pictures. It does not remember words. I'll remember the picture and then I will be able to speak to it. So what I'm telling you is that dump your content, create your structure, and then translate it into a mind map. And that brings us to the final piece, which is, how do you feel about practicing? Because what I do, having distilled it into one of these, is I will stand here in my office and I will go through it 3 or 4 times, and that picture will stick in my head, as it will in yours, because that is how minds work. And then I have no worry about getting my lines wrong, because nobody knows what line I was going to say next. I just have the picture and I can talk about it fluently and I can move things around. But that only happens when we practice. Now, this is what's going to happen with this, and I can tell you now, is some of you will take this information, you'll go back over the recording and you'll really work on this, and you'll feel really enthusiastic and you'll get to know yourself really well, and you'll understand what your identifiers are and, you know, what you're focused on right now, what you might want to ask somebody in a networking event. But then your ego will get in the way and you won't practice. You won't practice in front of the mirror, and you certainly won't go out and talk to other people and say, can I just practice my pitch to you? Can I have a go? Can you give me some feedback? The people that have the courage to do that, are the people that will be successful in life, that will get the opportunities come their way. That's the decision we all ultimately have to make. I don't know if Andre Agassi is too old for you guys to remember. Incredible tennis player. He said, if you don't practice, you don't deserve to win. What I say with my kids is, don't practice until you get it right. Practice until you can't get it wrong. This is not about just being able to say it and one off. This is about making it part of who you are. So wherever you are, in a queue in Starbucks, in a changing room. I once got offered a job by somebody just talking to a woman in a changing room, and I was telling her what I was so passionate about. She was going, "You really need to come and work for our company." So you practice until you can't get it wrong. So I'm going to just return to a question I asked you right up front. It's a question you have to ask yourself is, do you have the courage to become a great pitcher? Because what I've shared with you here is the way you do it. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, and I'm not saying you're not going to have to dig deep into finding out who you are and how you show up to the world. But what I can tell you is, you follow this process, it's going to make a game-changing difference to how things turn out for you. There's something we talk about in Ivy House, which is the behavior gap. What you want on one side and getting what you want on another side. And the difference is what you do. I might want that brilliant job in that incredible company, and I might want to be really successful in that. But if I am not prepared to do the behavior to get me there, it's not going to happen. Because there are many people out there in the world that will do the behavior. They'll do it. And then they will get what they want. So I've got an opportunity for you to practice all of this and to just have a go. And that, of course, is the Future Leaders of the Year competition. Now, Emmy's going to share the details of when that opens. I think it's in the next few days. It might be Friday, but we'll share that at the end. This is an opportunity to just practice your pitch. You may get through and be one of the finalists. You may get to work with some of the best coaches in the country. You may get to work with mentors and companies across the whole of the UK. It's all for free, and it's all for people that are prepared to have a go. We talk a lot at Ivy House about life is a series of events. One event comes to you one after the other, but what makes a difference is the choice you make in response to that event. So the event is the Future Leaders of the Year competition. The choice you've got to make is whether or not you're going to have a go, learn some new skills, leave your ego at the door, be prepared to have a go, maybe get it wrong, maybe get it right, learn something in the process. That's the choice you have to make. So I am now going to start taking questions, but I'm going to leave you with this question. The question you need to answer is, why should we choose you as one of the finalists of the Ivy House? The Future Leaders of the Year competition. If you're interested to learn more about what I've been talking about here, you can access our podcast called Extraordinary Unplugged, or have a look at the book, Extraordinary: How to Lead a Bigger, Braver, More Meaningful Life. And on that note, I will take any questions. So I'm going to stop my share. Emmy, if there are any questions that have come through, it would be great to see them, to hear them rather.
Brilliant. I hope you can see me and hear me.
I can, thank you.
Cool. I'm just going to start with a question that's come through directly to me, which was a great question, actually. Should you have different pitches for different situations? For example, if you're applying for a job at Tesco versus talking to someone who's in a field that you're really interested in, would you be saying different things to them?
That's a brilliant question. The answer is yes and no. So there might be things that are universal. So whenever somebody says to me, tell me about yourself, I pretty much always mention, I'm on a mission to change the world by bringing this incredible learning to young people. I pretty much always mention that. But if somebody said to me, why are you a great leader? Then I actually would choose a different set of things to share with them. I might say that, I've worked with 50% of the FTSE 100. We've won, I think, something like 48 awards for our work in leadership development in the last 12 years. So I would share different things like that, but I would probably still share that my true passion is taking the best learning to young people. So the answer is yes, the structure stays the same, and you could always take things from different pitches for different places.
Great. So I'm to myself again. And another one that's come through to me, which was, how do you find opportunities or people to pitch yourself to if you don't get many opportunities coming your way?
So you can pitch yourself to your mum, your dad, your best mate, your teachers, and actually have the courage to say, I'm working on something. I'm working on my personal pitch, and I'd love to have a go at it. So and you could say to somebody, can you just pretend that you're in an interview and you've asked me to tell me about yourself? So, just practice to the mirror in the first instance, record yourself. That is a brilliant thing. Do it on your phone. One of the things on our programs we get people to do is to do a pitch, and they often come on and they go, this is the 49th take, but I'm just going, brilliant. Like, you've had a real go. So I really appreciate that. So yeah.
Brilliant. Big question from Mohammed here. What qualities do you believe are lacking among today's leaders?
Thank you. What a great question. I think the primary thing that is lacking with great leaders is two things: deep self-knowledge. So all leaders are not born equal. So I'm a leader, but I don't like leading people. So I am, so I shouldn't say all leaders aren't born equal. I should say leaders are all different. So firstly, we need to know what flavor of leader we are. So I'm a creative leader. I'm a creative thinker. I'm a person that changes the way things are done, but I don't like leading people. So my way of leading is speaking, is writing books, is inspiring people to change. But then there are people leaders, there are strategic thinkers, there are technical experts. So the first thing is, most leaders of today don't know what type of leader they are. The second thing is many leaders haven't learned the human skills that can make them exceptional. So I'll give you an example of one of those skills. One of the skills we teach at Ivy House is a skill called conscious mind. And it's the skill of understanding that we are not our thoughts, that we don't need to get lost in negative thinking. How many of us, and I'm sure pretty much everybody on this call today, has had periods where they've lost themselves in negative thinking? So if we could teach these skills to the leaders of today, they would be able to put their positive energy into life and not into their thinking. So two things: they need to learn some human skills, and they need to know themselves better so that they only play in the field they should be playing
in. Gracie's wondering what's the best way to go around actually getting real interviews and opportunities? Once you've done all the practice, once you're really set on your pitch, how do you then go about getting the opportunities?
So there are some brilliant companies out there, to be honest with you. So I would suggest you look at a company called Bright Network. It depends what level you're at, whether or not you're a school leaver. And I'm just going to put a pitch in there because I say this every time. School, we're often pushed towards university, right? But actually there's something amazing out there called apprenticeship degrees, where you can earn money while you get a degree, while you're doing a job. And we have lots of information about these different opportunities for you on the Future Leaders Project. But ultimately, you're going to get interviews and opportunities from the companies themselves. So it might be that you're just looking for a Saturday job. You actually need to think about all the companies in your area that you're interested in, and you need to approach them. And that's where your pitch becomes really useful. You might send them an email, you might leave a message on the phone, you might connect with people on LinkedIn and say, I'm looking for this. Is there any way you can support me? One of the little known facts about people is that most people really want to help young people. Now, sometimes they haven't got the time and sometimes they're super busy. But if you ask people to help you and ask people for opportunities, you will get some opportunities. So I would say, Gracie, go out and ask everybody you know where they work, what's going on, what do they do about young people, how can they help get young people experience, because they might be able to give you some work experience. You've got to go out and talk to people and use LinkedIn. Really pitch people on LinkedIn.
I'm so bad for LinkedIn.
Maybe
like once a month, like do some kind of update. Brilliant. So I've got a question from Catherine here, which is an interesting one. What one question should we have asked but didn't? I think what she means is, what one question would these guys ask you, and what your answer be? It's not a hard one, which is why I thought I'd leave you to answer some the slightly easier ones first. So
yeah, thanks for that. If I was sitting in your position, what would I ask? I think I'd ask what my number one tip is. Like, what do I think is the thing that's going to make all the difference? And I tell you what, the thing that's going to make all the difference is practicing. Because do you know what's really interesting? In our education system, we're very good at retaining information. We're good at filling in the gaps. So I could send you a list of 10 questions and you could work really hard at thinking about them, right? And answering the questions. The thing that's going to make the difference is being able to stand here like I am now and just going, this is who I am. You know, this is why you, and that will only come by getting the words from here, out of here, making a real, try not to swear, mistake. That's a really rubbish word, but getting it wrong and having another go. And, you know, if you were learning to play any sport, right, you wouldn't be prepared. You wouldn't expect to go on a football pitch and be, you know, as I said, I don't know anything about football, but be in the, is there first league? I don't know. I suspect you don't know anything about football either, Amy, but you know, be in the Premier League from day one, would you? You'd practice, right? You'd practice. Same with learning tennis or rugby or whatever the sport is. Same with pitching. It's a sport. Get good at it. And the more you do it, you will stand out, because most people don't want to pitch. Sorry, don't want to practice.
Great. No, that's really, really good advice. Got a couple of questions here along the same kind of line. So Robert's asking about how important is charisma to being a good pitcher, and Leisha's obviously also asking about how to not look nervous when pitching or public speaking. So yeah, can you talk to, if someone's not a natural public speaker, what's a great way for them to, I guess, practice is
yeah, although I'm going to catch you there, because no one is born a natural public speaker, right? Yeah. We're human beings and we all, well, predominantly have the power of speech and connecting with humans, right? So what gets in the way is our thinking. So we'll go, oh my God, oh my God. So go on the Ivy House website, because we've got lots of different information about overcoming, or listen to the podcast actually, because there's a lot about overcoming confidence issues and all the rest of it. So the first thing is it doesn't matter if you sound nervous. It really doesn't matter. Practicing stops you sounding nervous. You know, the other thing that, this is a top tip actually, is you can't see what I'm looking at right now, but I have no notes. I'm just talking to you. So I'm not sitting here going, oh, I've got to say this next, I've got to say this next. The reason is I know my subject well. So you need to know your subject well, and then just talk about it. Talk about it with all sorts of different people. So practice. Don't write all your lines out and try and learn them. Then you're going to sound like a robot, totally unengaging. And did I say anything else, Emmy, that was useful there? I can't remember. Yes, we do have a podcast. It's called Extraordinary Unplugged. And there's a lot in there about thinking. So I would definitely listen to that.
Yeah, I'm just going to find the link to put that in the chat so people can find it. Brilliant. And while I'm doing that, we had one more question come through, which was... Probably
should be our last one, because we need to give people a link to the competition.
This is the last one we got. So yeah, we'll do that. What makes a pitch remarkable when you don't have much experience? And I guess here it's meaning sort of work experience or extracurricular experience or things like that.
Don't just look to your experience. It's a really good point, actually. Don't just look to your experience. Look to your passions. You know, I remember somebody saying, you know, the thing you should know about me is I really want to find a cure for mosquito bites. You know, because, and I was like, that's good. That I buy into that. So look forward, look to your dreams. People love people sharing their dreams. They can get really engaged in that. Or look to things that you care about. As I don't know if you were on the thing earlier, on the talk earlier, but look to what is it that matters to you? Is it climate change? Is it mental health? Is it, you know, disadvantaged kids getting the opportunities they should get? You know, so you can share what you're passionate about. You can share what you're dreaming about. You can share a stat. I think I shared earlier, you know, there are more men called John than there are women on the boards of companies. That we remember. So it doesn't have to be about you. It has to be about what you're interested in, what you care about, what you dream about.
Brilliant. I love that. and everyone's interested in something, even if it's something extremely niche, which I think makes things all the more interesting.
Absolutely.
That's brilliant. So we're sort of running out of time there, but I'd encourage anyone that has any more questions to reach out on LinkedIn, and we'll definitely get back to you with answers to those. I hope everyone's enjoyed that. Thank you so much, Elka. That was brilliant.
No problem at all. And I think we've put the link for the competition in the chat. So guys, have a go. Put yourselves out there. Be one of those people that is actually going to make the most of your life.
Absolutely. And that opens on Friday, the competition. So you've got a couple of days to start preparing now. And then
but I think actually that it doesn't close until October, the end of October. So there's like a 5-week period for you to enter. So
yeah,
absolutely. Cool. Any feedback from you guys? That would be great. Let us know whether or not this was helpful to you. We'd love to know in the chat, and we will see you on the competition.
Brilliant. Bryony's just put there in the chat that it's the 31st of October deadline, just for anyone who was curious.